we go. Hey, everybody. First of all, welcome. It is so excited to see all of your faces. I was excited to get up and take a shower this morning. I had a reason to shower and get ready. We're on spring break in Fulton right now, but we're still trying to have some normalcy. So the goal of today is really just to share some wellness tips. I have some things prepared for you, but then I have places throughout the presentation for us to stop and throw some other ideas out that you may be doing within your district. So we'll go ahead and get to sharing here. You guys have access to this. Here, wait a second. I'll share the bit.ly link in just a second. Here we go. I have Doug right in the middle of my screen. That's all that's there. Okay. All right. So here you go. For those of you that want to follow along, you've got the bit.ly right up here. I've also got my contact information. So if you want to get a hold of me, feel free to do that, please. So I had to share this one first because I saw this morning on Twitter and it made me laugh so much. Finish the sentence. If I had the principal's job, I would get another job ASAP. I love that from the homeschool files from some kiddos out there. But really, you know, I think for us that we're just struggling right now with this piece because we are so used to always being busy, I think, as principals. And I think for me, one of the hopefully things that we can kind of share during this time is that this piece right here, the busy's not a badge. It's okay. And it's actually like a good thing for us to slow down and take time, not only to take care of our own wellness, but the wellness of those around us. So I have some ideas for you because I know people preach wellness quite a bit, but they don't always give you ways to do that when we lead the way that we lead. So for those of you who heard me speak, this is one thing that I try to take anytime I go speak to others is, okay, how do we make time to lead? Well, you actually have the gift of time has been kind of given to us now. So taking these pieces of leveraging systems, elevating the impact, activating a team, and deleting, how do we take that to our current reality? First of all, looking at leveraging systems, you know, there's a blog post that I have linked in here about leading with productivity is, first of all, how are you taking control of your time? Like, I know yesterday was, for me, like I actually treated yesterday pretty much like spring break and just, you know, did the normal spring break things in my house. But what I realized is by the end of the day, I was like, what did I really do? I had checked email all day still. I had all of my other stuff going on. And I really realized I have got to take control of my time when I'm at home. Without being overdoing it too much. So for me, it's about that email consumption. I don't have my notifications on my email. I've continued to keep my notifications off because I don't need that happening all the time. I think we're kind of in that sense of worry all the time of what that next email, but I do make time throughout the day to do check-ins. And I've also let my staff know, or people know that need me in an emergency situation, please feel free to shoot me a text. I think we've realized too that emergency situations are not, they're a lot less, you know, I'm getting a lot less calls to the classroom for sure than I did when I was back at school. So same thing like with my watch and my planner and all of that, I've really tried to step away just a little bit. Another thing that I think is important is you're going to have to, you do you, like you got to do wellness that works for you. You can't, like what may work for me might not work for you. So I think that you have to think a little bit about what does work for you. I'm going to share a quadrant that I created for myself that really helped me. I love the work of Covey, but sometimes I had a hard time always knowing which were the big rocks, the medium rocks, and the small rocks, and the sand, and all of that stuff. So really working on how can I make sure that I can prioritize the work that I have to get done so that I don't, you know, I'm not 10 o'clock at night eating a tub of cookie dough saying, oh, wow, what did I get done today? And then finding your new normal. There's a blog post there by Danny Bauer. If you haven't, he's on Twitter. He's a person that I follow and follow his blogs. And he really talks a lot about stillness and wellness. And as leaders specifically, how do we find that? And so the blog post that he posted this morning was all about finding the new normal. And it was really a good one for me to really reflect on that as well. So here's the quadrant that I use. It really works well for me. And again, it may not work for you, but what are things that are urgent? What are things that are not urgent? And I think that whenever I have helped myself to really think about what are those things that are urgent and not urgent, I can really help figure out what my day is going to look like a little bit more as well. I think I am really reflecting as I've been home now for a few days that I made a lot of things urgent that didn't need to be urgent. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, of how we've gone to distance learning as well, and the urgency of that I think maybe we've overdone a little bit too much. Actually, I really think that we have, but that's just my opinion. Some resources. For those of you that know me too, you know that I'm all about sharing some resources. So first thing, I wrote a blog last Friday as I was getting ready to leave the building, because I think one thing that we can't lose through all of this is hope. And I think myself, I was going through so much. I pride myself on keeping it together most of the time, but I found myself really last Friday struggling with the grief process of knowing that I wasn't going to see my kids for a while, knowing that I wasn't going to see my staff. And to be completely real and honest, my purpose is what I do every day in my building. And I was worried about losing that purpose. And first of all, I think it's important for us to take time to grieve if that's what you need to do. We all do that in our own way. But I think I also recognize that, you know, the weekend was rough, but Monday I woke up and I was ready for to help create that new normal. But then I also recognized yesterday afternoon, I had a little struggle when I had a kid going through something. So recognizing our own emotions and not trying to suppress them all the time, I think that is something that is really important in leadership. For so often, you know, so long in leadership, we were kind of always taught to, sorry, I'm looking at the chat here too. Oh, yay, that's nice. Okay, the bit.ly again, could someone mind drop it in the bit.ly link again? That is one thing that's on the Zoom. I'll share it again at the end as well. All right, so back to that. But one thing I think as leaders that we need to really analyze is that for so many years, leadership success was type A personality. Like you had to go, 90 miles a minute. You had to be the first to get to school, the last to leave. And really what I'm finding is that's what's burning us out. That's what's burning our teachers out at times, is that they know they can't live up to the expectation that we set at times. So I've recognized now that drive plus wellness really helps me be a better leader. So the first one was a blog that I wrote last week, and then the staff check-in form, I've included kind of what that is as well, but you've got a picture of this form that I use with my staff. I send it out every couple days, and then it's optional, but it just asks, you know, how are we doing? And then what I did yesterday is, you know, I had sent it out Friday, then I sent it out Monday, and then I looked and paid attention to those that hadn't filled it out. Everyone on there, really, everyone's doing pretty well right now, but I did find out some things about staff members that I didn't know. You know, I've got some that are planning weddings for their kids that aren't sure whether or not that's going to work. And so just touching base with them in that way. Also, you know, I went through my phone last night, my contacts, and just reached out to people that I hadn't heard from just to see how they're doing. So that was a little bit there. Also, Teacher Fit. Teacher Fit is free right now. It's we actually had purchased it for our staff, and it is an online avenue for staff fitness and wellness. And they have a daily workout, and they also have a daily meditation or some type of something like that. So you have a link there if you you can use it for free during this whole time. They're a great community. I think people need a way to feel connected to something right now, and so Teacher Fit has been phenomenal. The last link that I shared on there was something also that I saw this morning on Twitter, 14 tips for digital limitations. I think one thing, and I know this is really big right now, we're all going through trauma right now. This whole situation is causing trauma in our kids, in our staff, and ourselves, because it's the unknown. We don't know when all of this is going to be over. But one of the things that we can control is how we respond to it. And I'm going to be honest, for those of you that know me, you know that I'm not going to be anything but like, what are we doing to our kids when we're shoving crazy amounts of digital learning to them? I think we're really opening up the equity divide even more, and we're stressing families out. We're stressing teachers out, principals too, of course. So I think we really have to be advocates for what is really best practice. And do we have to rush into moving so quickly on this? I don't know about you all, but April tends to be the month that is hogged by state testing. Well, we're freed from that this year. So I think it's really important for us to look at what is truly essential. What's our why of online learning? And how are we going to create that system that works? If our why is connecting, that's awesome. We don't have to shove a million assignments at our kids. If our why is we have a few essential learning outcomes that we have to get in before the end of the year, we're all in the same boat. We have the chance to make a difference in the way that we're doing things. So that's become my new soapbox. I need to get off of it now, but just wanted to share that with you all, because I think that we need to take a stand as leaders to say, hey, is this really what's best for our kids? Is this really what's best for our staff? Okay, soapbox over. So now on the chat feature, if you could go ahead, if you have ideas for other systems that you would like to, that you're utilizing in your life, if you have things that you've set up with your staff. We're going to talk about elevating the impact next. So we'll talk more about like specific Facebook groups and stuff like that when we move on to the next slide. I'm seeing that, yes, other people are struggling. Yeah, my kids, in my blog, I kind of share a little bit about the system we have in our house. This week is spring break, so we're treating it as spring break in our house. We're still making them brush their teeth and change their underwear, but we're not definitely doing a massive amount of schoolwork, just more connections with each other, board games, that type of stuff. I have a 16-year-old and 9-year-old myself, so I'm living it as a mom as well. During the school day right now, our district hasn't set up strict regimens for what we have to do. So I just had my kids do choose three in the morning, and then at lunchtime, they need to pick one loved one to call. And then in the afternoon, they pick 3. And I usually give them a menu of 6 or 7. So I think awesome. What I'm seeing right now is we have Zoom meetings that just checking in on each other. I love that. I also love that it's just to check in on each other. We did that too as a staff, and it was not even set up by me. It was set up by a teacher. And all we did was just kind of have a little time to see each other's faces. Also, I see from Dr. Nunn to daily schedule, sticking to that commitment. Yes, 17-year-old that wants to do, yes, my 16-year-old also wants to do nothing at all. We sent him to get takeout from one of our local restaurants last night, and he snuck into Walmart to get himself some new soda. We had a family meeting about that last night. I was like, no, that's not an essential thing that you need. All right, awesome. If you think of other things, just drop them in the chat and I will, yep, I see the daily schedule, 7 and 5, yes. And that's exactly what Justin is saying, is that a 7 and 5-year-old, they have to complete all the tasks, but in whichever order they want. I think for me, we had a local business donate planners to all of our K-8 students that they were getting ready to recycle for the year. And I just use those and write down usually 3 things that school have given, 3 things that I come up with on my own. Like for my 16-year-old, one of his things was to research colleges that he might want to attend and reach out for information. It doesn't have to be, he also wants to start playing golf. So one of his things that I gave him was research the best set of clubs and why we should purchase them with your help. So just like, it doesn't have to be all math practice and all the other stuff. Like if you can blend it in. Daily announcements with birthdays. Yep, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. All right, yeah, schedule, the normalcy of a schedule really helps as well. I think that's, for me, again, spring break, I'm not making the kids get up at a certain time, but that is one thing that we're working on as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next thing. I'll keep this group chat up though. So elevating the impact is the other piece, is like, how can you take things maybe that didn't used to be something that you did as much and take up the impact? So like when I'm talking in a workshop or something like that, I talk about like bus duty or lunch duty. How can you take the little things that you do on the edges that might not have a huge impact on student achievement and our culture, but how can we make them more important? And so one of the things that I have on here is our link to our videos. So you can actually, this is my assistant principal who's in here, who is awesome. I brag about her all the time. But this is her YouTube channel that we just put all of our videos on. So the day last week, Tuesday was the last day with kids. And then I know my roll call last week, it was very special. I'm not going to play it because I think we would drastically reduce the amount of people in our Zoom. But we, on Wednesday, we had our staff. And so we put our digital resources together, which is on the Fulton Public School webpage. If you would like to see that, it looks much like the rest of your alls. We basically did a page for each content area, and then put good resources on there that parents could utilize if they wanted to, but nothing expected. And then we made videos. We made daily announcements through April 6th. And then, so we have different groups of people today. The 7th grade team did the video. And then we have 3-minute moments is what we call them. And then Ms. Hogan, of course, renamed them to something more catchy. And it's knowledge for your noggin. And we have, like, we started out with roll call, which is it's gonna be in your ear for the rest of your life if you hear it. So definitely birthday announcements and put the birthdays in there. Like I said, that little bit of normalcy. We have those posted to our Facebook page, as well as we put them on the emails to the kids. And then 2, how can you use social media for good? That continue to that. For those of you that know me, you know this is a big thing for me. But this is one thing that, whoops, I went a little too far. Here is one little graphic that I made with, add a picture of something that you're doing since we've been out. And it's so great because it's not only for our kids, but also our our families. Our families are struggling with that kind of the loneliness of being stuck inside forever. And so getting that is a positive as well. Okay, my screen just did something weird. Okay. Sorry, friends. Spirit Week. Yep, I'm gonna show that for you in just a second as well. After I get my, sorry, I'm having a little digital issues here. Okay. Okay, so the next thing, you can't quarantine our Hornet Spirit. Our Digital Spirit Week will kick off next week, and we'll do some daily photo challenges. One thing I think it's important to our district of Fulton, we're pretty, we've got about 2,200 kiddos. We have 6 buildings. One thing that we felt like is really a big deal is we want to also have unity with our staff. So we're trying to do as many things as we can do. Okay, sorry, I'm pausing. Okay. Okay. Just a second. Maybe go over to your chat for a second while I get my computer to quit being weird, and drop an idea or something that you would like to try so far. Ooh, I don't want that there. Okay, wait just a second, my friends. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. Hopefully we're back on now. Looks like it. Okay. The other thing is something that you can easily do, like I was saying, is you want to, how can you bring your buildings together? And I know in some of your districts that you serve, you have so many more buildings than 6, but for us, we wanted to make sure also that one building doesn't do something the other buildings do. Like we are planning a potential parade, depending upon how quarantine goes through. But we wanted to do that like as a collaboration and not just one school, because then that sets up, you know, it's not a competition. And that's the thing I think we have to remember through these times too, is we're not competing as schools. We're not competing as a district. Like we need to be together on what we're doing. Staff shout outs. Quick form that you can make is to recognize FMS or Fulton Public Schools, how we do it. A staff shout out, you can throw this out to kids, to the community, etc. And then when you get your response in an Excel sheet, you can go ahead and make a little cute Canva staff shout out like I'd have here for Mr. Hoskins as well. So simple, easy, and it helps. What I love about this stuff is it also lifts my spirit. So I know we're talking about leadership wellness, but when you're helping bring out the best in others, it definitely comes back to you as well. I also just included check-ins that I'm doing with my family and elevating the impact again. I think we have to be really careful how we're communicating right now. Our families are nervous, our families are overwhelmed. So making sure that we're giving them support and not overdoing it. Because I think that's the piece, is we've got to find that Goldilocks in an uncertain time, and that's so hard to do. But don't be scared to ask for feedback too, of what more do you need. Okay, so ideas from the group. I'm gonna go back to my notes here. What ideas do you have? What are some things that you can share in our chat? Okay. Okay, great. I see some more ideas for digital stuff. TikTok challenge, yes. We actually had 7th grade teachers set up a TikTok page just for this time period, which has been pretty cool. The kids have really definitely jumped in on that. What else? Ed has got people journaling. Yep, I think I've seen that. I really think that's pretty cool too, like keeping track of what's going on during these uncertain times. Daily YouTube videos, yes. Try something new, random acts of kindness. So that's some other things too, of keeping it on, how do we keep things on, focus on that social emotional side of things and not just the academic side. I've also got some links in there to videos. I will try to copy everything over to the PowerPoint as well, or the slides, so that everybody has that. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Activate a team. This one's hard for me because you can't, be within 6 feet from each other. So activating a team is a little hard, but one thing that we have done on this, like to me, this has been our feeding, the way that we fed kids. We are out of feeding this week because we weren't able to get food because it was our spring break. I think too, being open and honest when you can't accommodate, like I let families know why there's not food this week. It's not because we want to take a spring break. It's because we literally have to order food a certain amount of time. And I don't know that everyone, including myself, I didn't realize sometimes how much that takes. So activating a team, one of the responses on my Google check-in form is, hey, I want to work on a project. So I think that's, if you've got people that are willing to do things like that, I think that's, you know, figuring out how you can activate teams to help. Are there other ways that you guys are doing activating teams right now within your organizations? Trying to pull my Zoom back up again. Good. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Food service asking staff to write notes to students to be included in lunch pickups and deliveries. It's another great idea too. Utilizing the Twitter page to let everybody know what's going on there as well. So many great ideas. Sorry, I just went through. Yeah, positive message on food containers. I know there's some places that are so quarantined that you can't, they're not even letting staff have much to do with this. So I think it's great. Our staff unique building PD. Okay, I look forward to seeing that. Jen Tiller. Personal I miss you videos. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that one thing that I think you probably all are with me on is that we don't really know how long this is going to last. And so one thing that we have really thought a lot about is how do we maintain this if we go, you know, past, and well, some of our districts have already canceled for the rest of the year, but like, how do we maintain and how do we not, you know, burn out steam from everything we're doing? So the D part in lead is delete, delete, delete. So how can, what are some things that we used to do, but maybe don't need to do so much? I think we all can say a big hallelujah that our state testing process this year is going to not happen. And I'm very proud of our department for making that call, because I think, and not all states have done that yet. So that's one thing, of course, that was deleted for us, which again, will free up, that's so much time that is put into in our schools during the month of April and May. But what are some other things potentially that could be deleted that we don't necessarily need to worry about as much? This is maybe a little more on the subjective side, but what are you thinking? Announcements. Awesome. I'm seeing some good announcement stuff. Care team to reach out to the more at-risk. Valerie, I think that's a really good point too. Activating care teams, counselors, learning consultants, campus minister to reach out to more at-risk families on a regular basis. Most definitely. Anything else that you guys are thinking in the chat that needs to be deleted at this time that we maybe don't need to be worrying about as much as? Okay, maybe you'll think of some more as we go on as well. I'm trying not to talk too much because I know that is one of my favorite things to do though. So the kind of last part of this is really more about you. I think that we are so used to doing that we forget about, like, we get to the end of the day and all of the baggage from everything that we've either witnessed or dealt with, it's still sitting there. And we've got to figure out how can we also utilize this opportunity to slow down and be well. So increasing stillness is one thing. How can you take time now that time is a little more of an opportunity? How can you increase some stillness in your life? So we are in such a digital world, and I'm starting to see it just amplify, but how can we look at some of these things? So turn off notifications. Like, how can you maybe, especially now that we're like, don't have as much going on, I don't need things to ding at me all the time. That's not necessarily something that we need. How do you, like, I don't know about you all, but I'm checking my personal email more often. I have unenrolled myself and all those things I enrolled in that gave me the discount or this or that or the other. So how could you maybe unenroll yourself in different things that you don't necessarily need. I also have really watched ed companies, and I feel like some ed companies are definitely trying to capitalize on this, and I have definitely unenrolled those for sure. I think a lot of folks are trying to help right now and open up free platforms, but then we have another whole group of folks that are, and I get that we all need to make a living, but at the same time, that's not the right group to benefit off. Folders are your friends. Like, this is the time to clean up your Google Drive. For those of you that already have that done, great. I need you to figure out, like, help me. That's a whole Zoom in itself. Help me get myself organized in Google. Delete unused accounts, like any other accounts you don't have. Maximize your voice. So that's just, you know, voice to text maybe. Inbox zero. I did that once and I'm back up to like 2000, but inbox zero is when you do feel pretty awesome whenever you can get that done. Updating passwords, block, unfollow, or hide. I think that the next slide really actually goes into that one a lot. I'm seeing myself online a lot more. I'm definitely on social media more than I had been. I have to learn how to apply a butter filter. There are people that I see, and I did this before the quarantine, but like, there are sometimes, you know, you've got that person that keeps sharing those, just really negative the teachers or the educators that actually share the negative. It doesn't mean that I live in and I want to live in an echo chamber. That's not it at all. But I also know that I don't need to see that's not going to make my life better. So I've had to figure out how do I block people that only care about causing problems or being negative or being destructive. I love to follow people that are going to push my thinking and not always agree with me, but I think it's really important in days like that we are in to make sure that the social media that we digest doesn't become toxic, for sure. And then also, how do you take time for you? Okay, doctor's appointments, that is something I typically share. I know that the doctor's appointments are now, you can just do a Zoom doctor's appointment, which is interesting. So you can do that for your dogs and cats too. So there you go. Walk it like I talk it. I can't tell all this to my staff to do. Like, I can't say, hey, I'm gonna build a culture of wellness in my building, but not model that. So how can you make sure that you're modeling it? Analyzing those routines and adjust, hydrate. Like for me, I like to drink a lot of coffee, and I have added water into my mix a little bit more. Getting moving, that teacher fit, that has been awesome. Monday, I did the workout of the day. Tuesday, I could barely move, so I did yoga. And then today, I'm not sure yet what I'm gonna do, but I can move my legs a little bit more, so that's positive. 2 positive emails, like how can you send 2 positives? Now that we have a little more time, like double it, triple it. And then talking it out. Can we just talk? Like, I feel like I'm seeing depression slowly creeping into so many people in general, but especially educators, because they're not living their purpose in the same way every day. So if you're struggling, reach out and talk to somebody. And most of us have employee assistance programs. So if it's more, you know, that's what it's there for. And then also, you know, your eating habits. I made a big change in my lifestyle in August and have tried, it's much harder now that I'm home though, because all I want to do is eat all day long. So I've really had to work on that, but also give myself grace to not necessarily think that I have to be perfect with my diet and nutrition. And then set and stick by limits. I think that's one of the things that's really, it's hard, and give yourself, like, it's okay to not have the day planned out. I think that's one of the things that I've seen that induces stress in me is when I see those things shared all over, like 8:15 to 9:22, we're going to do this. And then 9:23 to this. No, like, it doesn't need to be that rigid. But some of you might have those situations where that counts as well. This quote means a lot to me because I think we have gotten ourselves to the point that we're not necessarily, you know, we have the chance right now where we have a little more stillness to become well and to really help our teachers and our parents and our kids. How can we slow down to speed up a little bit? So this quote is one that just sticks with me quite a bit. So reminders, and then I want to get some more ideas from the group, is acknowledge your feelings. We're going through trauma and we're going through grief, and that's okay, and accept that. Reach out for support, and that support could come. I mean, feel free to message me. Feel free to message one of your PLN members. It's okay not to do it all. Sometimes I have to remove myself because, like, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram have kind of become the Pinterest of what we should be doing with e-learning right now. And I have to see something and realize that might not be what I need to do right now. And that we're going to get through this. And I think that's the thing that we have to continue to say over and over is we are going to get through this and we're all in it together. I think that we have to lean on each other more than ever at this time and help us stay positive in that. So wellness tips from the group. Let me pull my, there you go. Some good points on, yes, Rhonda, the PowerPoint, I'll share the bit.ly link here again. You'll have that. And what I'm going to do is just copy, I think, if it lets me. Yeah, it's going to let me, I think, copy the whole. Thank you, Jen, for sharing that again. A great point by Valerie on here is talking about, our kiddos that have anxiety, depression may be more comfortable not having to leave the house. And then when we're past the quarantine life and have to get back to normal, like what it's going to really need to look at. Because when we come back and we integrate back into school, that is going to be huge and coming, like we're going to have to slowly ease back into it for sure. Be sure, great point from Will too, be sure to coordinate about needs with your new coworkers, which would be your wife or your husband or whoever it is that you have home. That's one thing that has been very interesting as we've navigated that as well. Anybody else have good wellness tips specifically for leaders too? I think the thing about leader wellness, and yes, this was, some people are sharing the ideas for kids, but it's hard for us to be well when our kids aren't well. So I think it's great that you're sharing tips for staff as well as your students. Board games, exactly. One thing I did before the quarantine really started was I stopped at Walmart and bought a new round. I had all the Candyland and all that from when they were little, but we have become Trivial Pursuit junkies in our house. They have a great one that is kids and like you have two different types. My kids have seen my competitive spirit come out a little bit more in that. Puzzles, yes, definitely puzzles. Mike Schooley, definitely leaders are infamous for being all things to everyone. It's a great time right now to take care of yourself and family. And the more that we do that as leaders, the more that others will follow suit. And I think that that's one thing, again, I'll get back on my soapbox again, is that like we need to slow down. We need to slow down and realize we're all in this together and we're all going through it. I was telling someone the other day that, that we had a lockdown incident in our school last October where we thought we had an active shooter, and that trauma was real to us, and it still is. But really only our building and our families and district were affected in that. But this is something we're all going through together. So I think we need to realize like what could it look like? Does it have to look like online learning right now? There's got to be some outside the box things that we could be thinking about too. Can we add days on to the next year? And those are the things that people above that aren't principals like me think of, like the reasons why it couldn't work. But our whole nation is going through this as well as the world. So. All right, I'm going to figure out, okay, I think I do have a wellness challenge for you all to think a little bit about. I'm going to share the link again, and then I have a few books to share that I have here. Let me see. All right, so think of a little bit right now, what's one area that you're feeling most unbalanced, and why are you feeling that way? And you don't have to share this if you don't want to. You can though, if you want to share it in the chat to make it real. One thing I have to do is be very upfront with the things I'm struggling with so that I have some accountability. And what's one thing to delete and one thing to add to find more balance? So maybe right now, like for me, I need to figure out how to add more fruits and vegetables. I know that seems small, but like I am struggling with the eating that I was doing at school was much more positive than here. And then find an accountability partner, text them, tweet them, talk to them, Google Hangout, Zoom, whatever it is that you need to do, but have an accountability partner and really be mindful of that. And to add to this, like find a leader that you adopt a little bit and just check in on them, make sure they're doing okay. And I think that's the piece is we get so busy, like Mike said, taking care of everyone else. How can we make sure we take care of each other as well? So here again is the bit.ly link. It's been shared a few times as well, but that bit.ly link is there, as well as my contact information. I'm happy if you want my phone number, I'm happy to give that to you as well. You can shoot me a text. And I'm going to stop share. Awesome. Okay, and I'm going to share just a couple books with you as well. All right. First of all, this is one that is awesome. It's called Stillness is the Key. Brian Holiday, the phenomenal author. So this really it goes more in depth. It's not necessarily an education book, but kind of all books are education books, right? So it's a good one. Definitely one that made me say, okay, I need to slow down a little bit. Another one, and I believe Josh Varner is in this chat, and he recommended this to me. It's called The Deepest Well, and it is Healing the Long-Term Effects of Childhood Adversity. This is the founder and CEO of Center for Youth Wellness in San Francisco. I've seen a lot with her on Facebook, her TED Talk. Phenomenal with ACEs. And then, let me see. This is one of my new all-time favorite books. It's called No Hard Feelings. And it's basically the power of embracing emotions at work. So great read at this time, but it's also funny, and I won't do a read aloud with you, but it is pretty hilarious. Like it's written more kind of like comic bookish. It's got pictures and a lot of graphics. And so super good book. And it's funny, like I said, funny too, which is great. Okay. I think those of you who know me, I also love the books. Personal and Authentic. This is super inspirational. It's by Tom Murray. For those of you that have had the chance to hear Tom speak, he is a phenomenal speaker, educator. He's got so many different, so many great things that happen in here. Rereading this right now because it's what we're going through right now kind of has me thinking a different way. So great read there. And then the last one, which is a little heavier, but it's literally and figuratively Onward. It is Cultivating Emotional Resilience in Educators. I think that we're going to need to think a lot about, we've already been focused so much on social emotional learning, and I think just as a nation right now in our schools, but then we need to think about like, what's it going to be like when we come back, and what are we going to need to do, and what does next school year look like? How do we make the beginning of next school year be really special, since the end of this one has definitely been, I'm reading this one now. I love these authors, both of these authors, called Stamped. Kendi wrote a book all about racism and really looking at the historical features of racism. And then he paired with Jason Reynolds to come up with this book. It's mainly for young adults. It's a really, really good book. Made me think, and it's just a good book to read. So I see some other things here too. Thank you, Ms. Spirit, for the Science of Wellbeing free course from Yale. That's awesome. So there you go. She's in week 1 there. There's other books that you recommend, or thoughts that you have on things that we can do. I'm going to be really honest with you. I have been super lazy in my reading right now. I'm more of a blog reader right now. And I go through this every so often, like when I'm overwhelmed, and then I just take time to rest. And then I wake up and I'm so much more productive, and I'll get into a book again. Our library closed before, and I do prefer the paper book, but I'm going to have to get going on my Kindle a little bit more. So what questions might you all have? What else, maybe that I know I have had a lot of coffee this morning. So if I need to, something I went over a little too fast, happy to answer questions.